Good evening. This is the meeting of the Cabinet of Gloucester City Council. My name is Jeremy Hilton. I'm the leader of the council and chair of this meeting. Just say that this meeting is being live streamed on the council's YouTube channel. The recording of the meeting will remain online for 4 years. And if you are present in the chamber, you are consenting to appearing in the recording and the broadcast, which may also be used for training purposes. The next item on the agenda is apologies for absence. I think everybody's here other than Caroline Courtney, who's on her way, but she's travelling and she said she left a bit too late. She's coming back to Gloucester, so she might be here by the time we finish the meeting. The declarations of interest, I don't think there's any declarations of interest by anybody. And the minutes of the meeting on the 17th of July 2024, are we happy to accept them as being a true, accurate record?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, David, do you want me to sign them now or after the meeting?
Can sign it now, please.
The next item on the agenda is public question time. We've got 15 minutes for that. And we've got 3 questions in at the moment. Are there any supplementaries on the questions, the answers we've already provided? I think you're here, David.
Thank you, Leader of the Council. So I've got a question on the first one. Well, this is really good news, really, for passengers, I must admit. Oh. So I start. Oh, no.
Just wait a minute while we get the sound right.
So this is really good news for passengers, really. That the Buffy's going to reopen at the transport hub. Do we have any idea of an opening date yet, or will that be before Christmas, or are we still in the early stages of process?
I don't think there's a date, David. We've got, as it says, we've got to finish off the legals, and they can often take longer than we first imagine. But the officers are now working with that to secure the lease. And again, I think having secured a lease, it will also be up to the new operator to get themselves ready for it. They might need to employ staff, get the sort of various fixtures and fittings and supplies and services organised. So I don't have a date for you.
Okay, all I can say, we'd obviously like it as soon as possible for benefit of passengers. Thank you. On the question 2, I was there this morning, and obviously we have these, as the leader knows, asked the same question at county and didn't really get responses to who owns what. But these information displays giving the bus and coach departures are faded, and I got a picture of the head of Pacer. I'd like to see them. I wonder if we have a date or an engineer or somebody's going to have a look at them, or can we talk to the county to see if we can get them repaired? Only they really are not readable, and especially with anybody with sight problems or impairments, it's possible to tell where the coach or bus is going.
As you said, you asked questions this morning at County Council, and that was the appropriate place with regard to these. That's their responsibility.
Right.
So I don't have the information to give you an answer. But what I can say is that we encourage the County Council to fix the problems as soon as possible.
Thank you.
And when I see the Cabinet member next in Shire Hall, I'll nudge him.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. On the question 3, I'm pleased you're. I'm pleased. Well, I'm not pleased the MP hasn't consulted with the elected city council. I'm sure it's an oversight. But I wonder, as the city council and the importance of Gloucester as an economic hub in southwest England, the gateway to the Cotswolds, that whether it would be appropriate if the council, as city council, writes to the Department for Transport, Louise Hagan, Lord Henley, and expresses deep concern that the DFT has allowed cross-country trains, which is Arriva, One Square Capital, a hedge fund based in Cayman Islands, to effectively go into an emergency timetable and remove most of the intercity express trains out of Gloucester, because Gloucester's on the Cardiff line. And my understanding is we now, apart from the London line, we now only have any express trains anywhere in the UK once every 2 hours. And I think we've had this argument before, where it's always Gloucester and the line to South Wales that's the first to be hit when cross-country or the DFT decide to cut services. And quite frankly, from Gloucester Community Rail Partnership, that's not acceptable to us. It's not acceptable to the passengers that use the trains at Gloucester Station, which we welcome all the investment you're working on there as the council. But I wonder if you can consider, either with the county or without the county, writing expressing deep concern to the Secretary of State and asking her to put Gloucester back on the cross-country railway map, in-city cross-country map as soon as possible, please.
I think we can consider that. It does say an emergency timetable to November 2024, so it might well be that the timetabling is corrected again. I'm a regular user of the train services as well. I shall be going to the conference from Gloucester Station on Friday afternoon. But I think we can have a look at it and just see what the latest situation is with regard to the train services coming into Gloucester. Quite clearly, we want to make sure that we have the best services possible and they're as regular as possible and the quality of service as possible. I mean, I think one of the things that we're also waiting on is the completion of the works that are being carried out at Gloucester Railway Station, particularly the subway, which affects my own ward. To get all that fixed as well will be something that will be really great. But I'm as keen as you are to do it, but sometimes these are just practical timetabling issues related to works that are going to be carried out or things like that, and it's network. And I don't keep an absolute close detail on all the works that
they say it's
being carried out.
Timetable due to rolling stock issues and staff training, but that's the official line we're getting. But nevertheless, you know, it'd be very easy to reduce Gloucester and say, you know, we'll continue with the Bristol line, but of course they don't come in here, but very few trains. So all we're asking is possibly remind departments for transport and Secretary of State Louise Hay of the importance of Gloucester. I think that's all.
We'll have a look, and if we think it's necessary to write, we will do. But thank you. Item 4 is the member questions, and I think no, it's not. Item 5 is the petitions and deputations, which you don't have. Item 6 is the questions from members of the council. There's one in there, but I see the questioner is not present, so he can't ask a supplementary. So I'll move on to the next agenda item, which is the council delivered housing support supporting regeneration in Gloucester. This has had some publicity in the media already. The proposals is to start kickstarting some of the regeneration of some sites in the city that desperately need attention. 3 of the sites are owned by Gloucester City Council. The first one, which we'll probably be able to achieve fairly quickly because it's part of the Forum development, is the Whitefriars Phase 2, I think we're talking about 30 apartments there. The second one, which should be reasonably easy to do, is the refitting of the upper floors of 20 to 26 at the Oxbow and reshaping the retail units to provide up to 6 apartments there. The other one is Wessex House, which has been used as a compound for the engineering works and construction works at the Forum. We now need to look at a housing development project there. That's in the ownership of Gloucester City Council, we think up to 45 dwellings. And then there's 2 other items. One is 6769 London Road, which has been empty for year after year after year. And the owners of it, I know, have had inquiries and offers made on the building, and each occasion they don't proceed any further. We're hoping to kickstart that and encourage Pall Mall Estates to either come up with their own project to build houses on site, which is part of the city plan, or that we bring in partners or we do it ourselves. We're right at the beginning of that process. And similarly, we're concerned about the state of Spread Eagle Court in Northgate Street, which has been empty now for a number of years, and the main building has got broken windows. It's decaying, and there's holes in the roof and everything else like that. We need to make sure that this building is saved and it's repurposed, preferably for housing as well. And we're going to need to work with the owner on that one, because again, we know that there's been inquiries and there's been offers and they've not proceeded. So we're hoping to use the influence of the City Council to kickstart that one. If we succeed in all these projects, we'll have helped regenerate an areas close to the Forum, I think, which is really good. And we probably create about 180 housing units in the urban environment in the centre of Gloucester. And, you know, Gloucester doesn't have a lot of land around inside it for housing developments. So we're going to have to look at sites like this to put in housing units of 50 to 60 and try and fill in the jigsaw of regeneration that the Forum is providing us. So we've started. We know we've got the money for the Whitefriars too. That's part of the Forum project. And we've got the Brownfield reclamation grant from the government for that site. So we will carry on proceeding, but hopefully when we finish, we'll have an extra 180 units. And the other thing about having these people living near or in the city centre, with the university and the Forum and the additional members of staff working there, and more people living in the city centre, this might start to encourage some of the retailers and businesses to come back into Gloucester, where they know that from then on, they're more likely to succeed financially. I think one of the biggest problems is people need to be sure that they've got the footfall in order to operate a business, whether it's a cafe, bar, a restaurant, a retailer, greengrocers, a butcher's, or whatever it is. We need to bring more life back into the city centre, and that's what we intend to do with these 5 projects. It's the start of our aim as a new administration to deliver urban regeneration for the city centre. I hope members are happy to support.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Can I just say how much I welcome this report? It's beginning to paint a picture of the ambitions and the direction of this administration. It's true that a lot of it will depend on securing the funding, but I'm confident we will be able to do that. Looking through the sites themselves, Northgate Street in particular, it's a beautiful old red brick building. I would hate to see, you know, it's terrible the way it's rotting away there. It's almost criminal. London Road, similarly. So we really have to do something about it. But it's projects like this that will affect people's lives, and it's what we should be our focus as an administration. So I'm glad that we're taking the first steps here. So very much welcome it.
I did take the opportunity at the City Regions Board when we had 2 civil servants from the Department of Housing and Local Government. Don't know whether I got that right, they keep changing the name. But I did mention the fact that we don't have a lot of land, that quite a lot of our housing supplies being carried out in the Tewkesbury area, and that some of these sites are going to need additional public support, and we'd hope that we'd get that from the new government, that we'd get this public support in order to deliver it. If you look at the Quick Save site, which is now Walkinshaw Court, that had a number of attempts to build apartments on site, and in the end, it was Homes England's support for rooftop housing and others that made it sure that the bottom line was covered and it was a viable project to deliver. And now we've got about 80 flats there as well. So this is what we intend to do. I accept everybody's agreement. Yeah. Item 8 is the disposal of number 92, 96 Westgate Street. I think that's Declan who's going to introduce this one.
Thank you. The purpose of this report is to provide a proposal for the disposal of 92, 96 Westgate Street. In doing so, we looked at the following options: either leasing the property in its current form as an office space or selling it on the open market. With regards to leasing the property, this was considered too risky in the current market. In its current state, it doesn't offer the flexibility that potential customers seek. It would require us to provide contributions as a landlord for alterations to the building, and the lack of parking in the area was also identified as an issue. With regards to selling the property, we think this could achieve somewhere between 600 and 700,000 on the open market. Putting it on the open market will help us gauge interest in the property, while at the same time having some control over the future use of it. Leaving it empty is not an option, as it would cost us around 115,000 per annum, and frankly, we've got enough empty properties in the middle of the city centre at the minute. So therefore, the recommendation is to dispose of the property on the open market. It is the less risky option, and we think there's a clear demand for freehold properties of this nature in the area due to the potential to convert the upper floors. This will give us the opportunity to generate a capital return, and which we can reinvest in other projects in the city. And it was also free us of the financial burden of owning a building with limited potential for generating a commercial income with added significant costs. So I would urge Cabinet to support this proposal.
Good. Anybody want to comment on that or accept the recommendation? Yep. Okay. I think this one's you again, Declan. That's the
Yes.
financial monitoring quarterly report, the first 3 months of this financial year and of this administration.
Okay, well, this report's already been given a good airing overview and scrutiny. I think there's been 5 newspaper reports on it as well. So I'm not going to go through all that detail again. So I'm just going to give you a quick summary of what exactly it is. And as I said, it's a summary of our financial performance for the first quarter, which includes the months from April to June. It's important to note that unlike the previous report, this one measures our performance against the budget that was agreed by this council in February earlier this year, and not the previous year. Also worth remembering that since this is the first quarter report, the forecast year-end numbers will tend to be more speculative and will be firmed up more as the year progresses. However, that said, as we look at the report itself, you will see the same financial pressures that were a major theme of previous reports. The latest year-end forecast is for a decrease in the general fund of 67,000 against a budgeted increase of 12,000. This may not seem much, but we need to be looking to increase our general fund balances over the next few years. Generically, the same pressures remain. Inflation, though it's not as bad, higher interest rates and energy prices. I would add on to that as well, uncertainty around the local government funding landscape as a result of the change in government after the general election. This creates a further big uncertainty. The expectation, however, is that the financial challenges will continue in the short to medium term. However, now we have an idea of the extent of well, to be frank, the mess we have inherited. I can assure you that we have got this. We're already well on the way to sorting it out, and I would imagine that as the year goes on, we will see some improvements on that report. But it will require an awful lot of hard work, monitoring, and making sure that we keep everything in check, as well as realising new opportunities. So I would urge everyone to, I think, we just note this report and welcome any comments.
Can I just say that when you look at this year's first quarter, we're talking about £79,000 total overspend over the budget. We've got to compare that to the £1.5 million projected overspend that the former administration had on their budget this time round. So though the finances of the council are still precarious, you know, it was called the Vanishing Council for good reason, and we're hoping to make it the Recovering Council. I am confident that the officers should be able to balance a budget by the end of the year. £79,000 is a lot easier to fix than £1.5 million, unless, of course, there's a surprise that kicks us in during the year. But it's important that we do carry on keeping tight control over the finances of this council, and we make sure that we keep to budget, because that's the best way forward, and it's the best way that we can plan and deliver quality services. I mean, the key importance is that we continue to improve the services of this council. Therefore, we don't need to have unexpected problems with our finances. What we need to do is have maybe a few windfalls will be nice. Some from the government, we never know. They might be more generous than the last one. Anyway, I think it's quite clear that the outturn on the first quarter is considerably better than it was this time last year. Anybody else want to say anything on it? No? All right. We'll note it. I think that's the recommendations. Yeah. And we'll move on to the next one, which is the Equality and Diversity report. And I think this is one for Rebecca.
Yes, thank you, Leader. A workplace that encourages equality, diversity and inclusion helps make it a successful organisation. It keeps employees happy and motivated, preventing serious and legal issues arising, such as bullying, harassment and discrimination. I'm very pleased to be bringing this Equality, Diversity and Inclusion report to this Cabinet meeting. It is very important to emphasise that it's not simply a tick box exercise, but a blueprint which entwines EDI in every area and aspect of this Council's work. A central theme for this coming year, as the previous, will be to continue tackling inequalities, because quite simply, how can we ever be truly representative of equality if we don't challenge those seen, but more often than not, unseen inequalities that exist? This council will remain committed to ED&I throughout this council, and this will be reflected in ensuring fair distribution of council services across the city. So I hope my fellow cabinet members can note this report, and we will continue to make sure that this exists throughout this council. Thank you.
Anybody else got anything to say on this one? No? Shall we accept the recommendations? And thank you for your introduction. Yeah. Next agenda item, that's Sebastian, which is the Cabinet Member for the Environment, which is the Draft Air Quality Action Plan.
Thank you, Leader. This report is to update Cabinet on the Draft Air Quality Action Plan, or ACAP, and seek approval to consult on this. We have to produce an Air Quality Action Plan under the Environment Act 1995, and we've already consulted with stakeholders in the previous year, and we're now seeking approval to get this action plan out to consultation If you look at the appendix, it's got a range of actions that we're proposing. A lot of them around promoting the danger of idling vehicles or using more active travel in the city, cycling and walking, and avoiding vehicle petrol engines and diesel engines, carbon emissions. We're working towards net zero, of course, in this city, and working more towards using more electric vehicles and installing charging points on council property. And the overall aim is building on the pleasing news that we've had recently, that air quality in the city and indeed nationally has improved. And this is shown by the way we measure the air quality, and it's probably due to engines getting more efficient. Obviously, in the long term, for the future of this planet, we need to transition away from any sort of emissions at all towards zero emissions. And this council has got a good record on achieving that. We've got a good green travel plan for our staff. We have a salary sacrifice scheme for officers to take up the use of an electric vehicle, and I believe 5 staff have taken that up, and I think it's working very well. And I would encourage all members in this cabinet to back this draft air quality action plan and go for consultation.
Are we okay with that one? Do we accept it? Thank you. Move on to the last item, number 12, which is the annual report on grant funding provided to the voluntary sector. I think that's Rebecca again.
Thank you, Leader. This council in 2023 to 2024 distributed a total of £103,995, supporting a total of 80 organisations. You'll see in Appendix 1 the list of groups that have been funded in this time period. It is absolutely fantastic to see that all these varied groups have benefited from a small pot of money to help them fulfil their desired project, from sewing community groups, football equipment, cricket grants, and even a buddy bench to support mental health at one of our primary schools. These projects all provide tangible benefits to the individual communities. The councillor community grant will continue this year, and I'm hopeful that we will see an equal benefit like we have this year. We will also be looking at other grants and funding streams as and when these are made available to us, and we wait in eager anticipation what will be given to us centrally now that a new government is in place. I just want to thank the officers who have processed these applications, making sure that any money given is wisely spent by those organisations that have been given such grant money. And I think we can all confidently agree that they have all gone to the right organisations and right projects. Thank you.
Any other comments on that? It's a report of the grants that were received last year. And we'll see what happens for the future as well. Thank you. That closes the meeting. We've done it in half an hour. There you are. Thank you for